Many businesses reach out to us here at StubGroup and they're asking the question of, should I use one Google Ads account or multiple Google Ads account if I'm advertising multiple websites? I'm going to make this video to answer that question and walk you through some of the different reasons why you might want to take one approach versus the other. And really, there are three categories of consideration when you make this decision. The first has to do with Google policy. So is it allowed by Google policy? Do you run the risk of creating potential suspension issues or ad disapproval issues by doing one versus the other? So that's the first thing we'll talk about. Then secondly, performance. Do your ads perform better or worse if you use one account or multiple accounts? And then lastly, reporting. Does using one account versus multiple accounts make your life significantly harder by complicating reporting? So we'll talk about each of these three categories. And I will say there's a lot of nuance to this. There are rules, but then there are also exceptions to rules. And so if you want some, customized consulting related to your specific situation, feel free to reach out through StubGroup.com to my team, and we'd love to chat with you further. So let's dig into this. First of all, let's talk about why you might be asking this question. So some of the common reasons are, let's say, agencies. They might be advertising for multiple clients, and their question might be, should I have one ad account or multiple ad accounts? You might have a brand that has multiple sub-brands or maybe even different websites tailored to different geographies. They might want to ask the same question. You might have a serial entrepreneur who has multiple businesses, multiple websites, maybe even similar websites, and so forth and so on. Those are some of the most common reasons we've seen, but there's always other reasons as well. So let's talk about the policy side of things first, because obviously you do not want to get your ad account suspended, because you will be quickly going from asking the question of how should I advertise to how do I advertise? I can't advertise anymore with Google. We've seen a lot of problems over time related to having multiple ad accounts or not. So let's dig into it. So first of all, if you are an agency, do not mix multiple clients within the same ad account. It's a bad idea for a number of reasons, and it's also something that Google does explicitly say not to do in their rules around third-party advertising. So Google explicitly says if you're a third-party advertiser or third-party manager of advertising, i.e. an agency, then you are supposed to have a separate Google Ads account for each client. Unfortunately, a lot of agencies just don't know that that's a problem, and we've had a lot of agencies reach out and actually hire us to help them unsuspend ad accounts because they had an ad account that had multiple different clients they were advertising from there, and then maybe something went wrong with one ad account, or one website, I should say. Like, for example, we have a situation where one of the clients' websites was hacked, and Google saw that and suspended the entire ad account, which suspended all of this agency's advertising for all of their clients. So you definitely do not want that. And so if you're an agency, use a separate ad account for each client. Now, if you're not an agency, again, let's say you are a business and you have multiple different websites that you're advertising. Let's talk through the pros and the cons from a policy perspective. So there are some definite cons. One is that, like I just mentioned in the agency example, if there's a problem with one of your websites that you're advertising, then that can impact the ad account as a whole. Let's say you have 3 different websites you're advertising, one ad account. Again, one gets hacked, Google suspends the entire ad account. Now, even though your other 2 websites have no issues with them, you can't advertise them through Google because your ad account was suspended. So that's a big problem and a big con to using one ad account for multiple websites. Another con is that it's really easy to accidentally violate Google's policies by having, let's say, for example, site links in one campaign that are going to one website, and then you accidentally copy those over to another campaign, or maybe you have account level site links or other assets that link to a website. And suddenly you have a situation where you have ads pointing to website A, but you have other extensions, these call them extensions, now we call them assets, that pertain to website B. And if you have those assets from website B on your campaigns from website A, that's violating Google's policy, because you're sending people from those assets to a different URL, or I should say different domain, than the main ad in your campaign. And we've seen this cause suspensions in accounts. And so that's another easy thing that can go wrong if you take this approach. Now let's look at the flip side. What are some of the problems that can occur if you have multiple ad accounts for multiple websites? Well, there's not a policy on Google's end that says you cannot have multiple ad accounts for multiple websites, even if you are one business. There's no policy against that. Many businesses do that, and it works for them. However, we have seen many situations where if Google sees similar, especially payment information, sometimes similar business information, but definitely similar payment information across ad accounts, that can be a red flag to Google. So for example, let's say you have the same credit card that you are using to pay for 3 different ad accounts for 3 different websites. You are not technically violating any policies, but that also mirrors what a lot of bad actors do, where they spin up tons of ad accounts and they have the same payment method across those ad accounts. And that can flag Google's system. It doesn't always flag Google's system. There's no guarantee it will flag, but it can. And we've seen this happen where Google gets confused and thinks something suspicious or weird is going on and suspends one or multiple of those ad accounts. So generally speaking, the safest approach is that if you have multiple websites, ideally you have multiple different business entities that operate those websites. And so you can have an ad account per each business entity and a payment method that's specific to that business entity. And if you take that approach, that significantly decreases the chance of triggering something in Google's system to be viewed as suspicious and cause a suspension of your ad account. So those are all, I think, really important aspects to keep in mind. Now, you might ask, what if I've already been doing this? Like, should I go and fix it? And I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video because, again, there's some nuance to that. But let's move on from the policy side of things to the performance side of things. Does having multiple websites within the same ad account hurt or help your performance? And I'd say the short answer is it depends. Generally speaking, it's not a good idea because Google has this idea of account level quality score, or really a better way to put it is not so much account level quality score, but your account history impacts the quality score. And so if you have multiple different websites, that can really skew what your account history looks like because Google can be very confused about it, or maybe one website was doing well, another website was not doing well, and Google looks at that and Google pings the quality score for the one website because the other website wasn't performing well. So there's lots of things like that can happen that can just really confuse the system and negatively impact your ads. So generally speaking, my recommendation is one ad account per website for performance reasons, separate but in addition to the policy questions that we just talked through. Then lastly, let's talk about reporting. It can really get confusing as well to do reporting when you have multiple websites in one ad account because you've got to use labels or whatever to figure out which campaigns go with which website, etc. That can just get funky and weird. If you are linking multiple Google Analytics accounts or multiple Search Console accounts, things like that, to your one ad account, things can get weird and funky there as well. And you've got to make sure you're associating the right conversion actions with the right website. You've got to kind of navigate your remarketing code, your remarketing lists. Things just get complicated. So generally speaking, we recommend, again, one ad account per each website that you are advertising, as long as you're not doing something that's going to potentially trigger Google to be confused by having, let's say, the same payment information across multiple ad accounts. Now, what if you've been doing this for a while? What if you have multiple domains in the same ad account and you've been doing this for a long time? In a lot of instances, I'm not going to recommend changing that. If you're an agency, I do recommend changing that because Google's policy says don't do that. But if you're just a brand and you're out doing your own advertising and you've got this situation set up, we have some situations where clients of ours who maybe were doing this for a long time and then we took over management of their campaigns and have worked with them, where we've chosen to not change things and not move things into new ad accounts because there is risk. Every time you create a new ad account, there is risk again of that confusing Google system and causing a suspension to the new or old ad account, even if you're not doing anything wrong. And there's performance risk where, hey, it's a brand new account, it doesn't have history. And again, even though you may be skewing your quality score by having account history across multiple websites, hey, if things are doing well and things are performing, well, you may screw things up again if you move that into a new ad account that has no history, and now Google has to adjust. So if you've been doing it for a while, you're not an agency, you're just a brand, you've got multiple websites in your account, generally speaking, I'll say keep things as is. Don't rock the boat. But again, there's lots of nuances, there's exceptions to everything I said here. So if you're looking for help in your situation, please reach out through StubGroup.com and let's talk.